Some plants don't just struggle when you plant them indoors. They actually are deeply affected when it comes to their yields and their ability to produce. So today's video, I thought it'd be incredibly helpful to actually go through the seeds that you should never start indoors. And if you choose to start them indoors, how to start them indoors correctly. Now, this could also reference if you're starting them in a greenhouse or if you're just starting them in containers prior to planting them outside. These are plants that are particularly sensitive to transplant shock and root disruption or disturbance. Now, if you're wondering who this crazy redhead is that is about to talk your ear off, hi, hello, my name's Ashley. I have a bachelor's of science in soil science. I like to take said science and apply it to all things plants. And in today's video, we are applying it specifically to root systems that are very unique and different from a tomato or a pepper, for example. So when you're transplanting plants outdoors, you're not just disrupting the upper biomass, but you're actually mostly disrupting the lower biomass. And more specifically, you're disrupting something called root hairs. Now, root hairs are very fine and very tiny compared to what the main roots would look like. And when you actually transplant, if you're disrupting those roots, you usually break off somewhere between 80 to 90% of those root hairs if you do follow the typical rustle and tussle before transplanting them in the ground. Now, the disruption of this root hairs actually directly affects the uptake of water enormously. It also causes a redistribution of hormones, in particular auxin. So auxin is the growth hormone that is in charge of growth and where things are grown from. So if we redistribute that throughout the plant, that does cause some issues. And then we do know for a fact that transplant shock, that wilting effect we get, is completely related to water uptake and how much water is inside of the plant and the inability for that plant to uptake more of that water. So what ends up happening is you end up with a plant that is wilted because the sun and the wind has depleted the reserves of water with no ability to uptake more. So now some root systems are well adapted to this root disturbance. For example, tomatoes, peppers, a lot of flowers are just fine. But there are some select few crops that do not fall into this category and actually really struggle to regain those root hairs, particularly when we combine that with the fact that we've redistributed the hormone, the growth hormone auxin that controls growth both above and below ground. So I think the most infamous one we see this with is things that have a taproot or are below ground. I think you could very quickly list off a few. Carrots and parsnips are ones that come to mind immediately for me. Now, the difference between, say, a turnip or a beet and a radish is that the radish and the beet bulbs are rounded and dome-like. They're not digging downwards. Whereas a carrot or a parsnip actually is a true taproot in the sense that it is a root that is drilling into that soil. If we disrupt the tip of that root, we redistribute the auxin. So for these guys, it's not so much the root hair disruption as it is that disruption of the tip of the root. And the tip is always sensitive. And in the case of carrots and parsnips, the rule also applies there. What ends up happening is we end up with a plant that has a lot of different nubs and regrows. So rather than the pretty singular long carrot that we normally end up with, we end up with multiple jutted out bottoms or those really interesting looking carrots that come out of the ground. It's because that root tip has been disturbed, that auxin has been redistributed. Now, this happens when you transplant them or start them early and then transplant them. But it also can happen if you go to remove or thin the area and you accidentally have two roots kind of combined and you thin one and leave the other. That can happen. It can also happen if it drills down and hits something. That's another form of root tip disturbance that could cause kind of that weird shaped carrot or parsnip look. The next grouping is actually going to be your fast growers. So fast growers can include things like corn, sunflower, beans, and legumes like peas, chickpeas, etc., and so forth. These plants are off like rockets once they do finally germinate. You know this because if we were to experiment in elementary school with growing beans in a bag, we know how quickly that bean takes off. While the plant can very obviously recover from this, with these guys, it actually isn't so much the auxin redistribution that's causing issues. That probably doesn't cause that much of a problem. Is that loss of root hairs, which in turn affects the water uptake. And more specifically, it's not affecting the water uptake and then causing that wilting effect that we see with transplanting or the transplant shock we classically see. It actually is the root hairs being disturbed and then changing the plant's ability to actively or passively get nutrients into that soil system. Yeah, water, which is the conduit in which those nutrients move. So with these guys, if we transplant them, they tend to transplant fine and not die off. But what we do see is kind of a stoppage in growth, almost like a fake dormancy. And this isn't, a huge deal. The plant eventually will catch up and grow and do beautiful, wonderful things. But why not save yourself time, money, effort, and focus that somewhere else entirely and just plant these directly in the soil? Because that is where they perform best. They're off like rockets, like I said. There's no real purpose to starting them early, other than if you're just itching to start something early, then of course go crazy and wild, do what you want to do. Next up is actually the world of things like pumpkins, spaghettis, butternuts, acorns, that sort of thing. These two kind of groupings are very sensitive. They have very weak, very fragile root hairs, and they truly do suffer, not so much from the nutrient uptake because their demands are high, but they're not enormous like some other faster growing plants. And it actually has nothing to do with a taproot being deformed. It has solely to do with the ability for that plant to uptake water. These plants have very big, very broad leaves. If you've ever grown any squash or any cucumber for that matter, you know that the cotyledons themselves are very large compared to a tomato or a pepper cotyledon right off the hop. And because of these bigger leaves, there's more surface area. And because there's more surface area, there's more stomata. And because there's more stomata, there are more active sites in which water can be lost. So what ends up happening is if we are disrupting that root system and breaking off all those root hairs, we are disturbing that plant's ability to uptake water. Now, if we are able to insulate that plant from extreme wind, extreme heat, extreme sun, then maybe hypothetically that plant could limp through or lose less water until those root hairs regained traction. And then ultimately we're able to rehydrate the plant. Yes, that is an option. But if that is not something that you are well equipped at doing, or you're not able to recognize and pivot accordingly, you're going to have a plant that is drastically slowed down compared to all others. Next up, we actually have the plants that are very prone to bolting. So these specifically are things like cilantro and dill. It actually is the herb family that we see this most commonly with. What ends up happening is stress causes flowering because the plant's ordeal or purpose isn't so much leaves for you to eat as it is for flowers for it to reproduce. So at the first sign of stress, what these plants tend to do is they tend to flower. That is why cilantro is only able to be grown in those early stages of the year, because it very quickly turns into coriander and turns into flowers and seeds. Dill, same thing. There's a reason why your dill is flowering and ready to go when you're pickling in the middle of summer. These plants are very sensitive to changes or disruptions in their environment, and their roots are equally as sensitive as their upper biomass is to heat and sunlight. So if we disturb these root systems, what tends to happen is the plant says, oh, I'm stressed now. I need to flower because something's happening below ground. And this will cause these plants to bolt or prematurely flower and cause problems, which reduces the leaves that you may want to harvest from your dill or your cilantro. Now, if you want cilantro and dill flowers right away, then great, transplant them because that's exactly what you're going to get. If you're enjoying this science-based content, then I highly encourage you to hit that subscribe button because next week I'm actually doing a bunch of videos specifically on zero input gardening. So zero pesticide input, zero fertilizer input, organic or synthetic, by the way, and how that would work or what that would look like. Plus, I'm not AI, so support a real human. It's the free, helpful thing to do for the channel. Now, here's the thing. You're in a cold climate like I am. I'm on my 15th winter at this point, and it's supposed to literally snow 3 days from now again. And soaking up the proverbial semi-sunshine as it stands this moment, because I'm about to be thrust back into winter for another week here in a couple days. I wish I was joking, but this is like 48 hours later. So yeah, good old blizzard. So I very obviously can feel bad for those of you that have plants that you want to grow that fall in these categories of sensitive, but you want to get an earlier harvest or you want them to perform in our climate. So for example, loofah falls right in that category of these vining plants that do very poorly with transplanting. And therefore, there is a small loophole we can use to actually achieve pre-planting and that pre-emergence and that pre-growth that we really want, that vegetative stage, transplanting outdoors, and then not ending up with that transplant shock or that root disturbance that ultimately causes that transplant shock in these plants that you should not start indoors. And I'm sure you probably already guessed what that solution is, and that is compostable pots. You can get cow patty pots, you can get peat pots, you can get coir pots. You can make them out of newspaper, you can make them out of paper, you can make them out of cardboard. You could technically also soil block. All of these things will allow you to very easily make a tougher root system, best designed for some root disturbance on the outside of that soil block or peat pot or whatever you choose to go with, and as well as will allow you to transplant without affecting those roots. So I very highly encourage you to utilize these as your step up or your ability to succeed if you're struggling to get things going in this cold, wet soil that is Canada or the northern US, or a lot of you in Europe actually watch this channel as well. I mean, Australians and people in South America also watch this show, Geek Crew, from there. Say hi. Hi. If you want to sponsor a poor influencer, come spend a week at your house. I may or may not be up for dibs. Is that considered human trafficking? I don't know. But if it is, I sign myself up. Anyways, if you want to know exactly what you need to do for any users, Geek Crew, if you want to know what you need to start doing once things emerge or begin to germinate, then you're going to want to check out this video right here. And that video is what YouTube says you should watch next because they're watching you. I will talk to you guys next time. Bye. Are you going to be the star of the puppy show? Instead of Ella today, we have Mr. Candy Cane. It's a good dog. Don't sit. Oh my gosh. I should have chose you in a different color. Like black since you like mud so much. He's so cute.